Green room, we will get
a fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. In any weather you will see us with a grin, risking head and skin. If we're behind, then never mind, we'll fight and win, for we're from Tigerland. We never weaken till the final siren's gone.
Good evening, Tiger fans. It's time for Fancast, or Fancam. Fancast, that's probably the one we could go with, actually. After the round 16 game against the Crows, where we got done by 68 points at the MCG. Wasn't ideal, the end result. It's been a pretty tough last three games, no doubt. I try and always have a little bit of perspective with some of these things, because it is frustrating when you go down by some of these margins. It's three relatively sized losses in a row. The one thing I will say is, just for everybody to keep in mind when thinking about these games, is the Crows, the Bulldogs, and the Swans have all beaten other opponents by more than what they've beaten us by. And I know it's a very, very small bit of silver lining, but it sort of just says to me that it's maybe not as bad as it seems. And when you look at where those teams are on the ladder, I know the Swans are a bit low, but they're kind of resurging. It's not, we shouldn't be too surprised. I guess a lot of it is about the effort, isn't it, though? And or the perceived lack of effort in some instances across some of the quarters. We again had another goalless quarter today in the first quarter, which I was a little bit flat about. I mean, they didn't necessarily kick away, so it probably didn't feel as bad. But then to score goals for the other three quarters, I know that's setting the bar really low, but at least we didn't have two goalless quarters. And we managed to get some multiple goals late in the game as well, despite losing McKelty, which was really, really shit. So hopefully he's okay. I'm not sure the severity of the calf. I didn't catch any of the press conferences post-game. So if anyone who jumps on knows that, let us know. The other exciting news, I guess, if you were to pick some green shoots out, Jasper Alga kicking his debut goal, which nearly got taken off him, and I would have been fuming if that had happened. But no, he's a smart player, and to get his second goal as well from a nice set shot, he kind of validated everything that I'd been thinking from what I could see from his game, that he adds another offensive weapon for us in the forward line that we don't currently have, which Steely kind of isn't doing. Mansell hasn't hit the scoreboard for a little while, I don't think. He fills the void nicely. But tonight's all about fan cams. I want to get all of your thoughts about the game, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we'll kick it off. We've got Skurush in the house. How are you, mate? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, going well.
Yeah, look, it's kind of funny, like just watching on a lot of people like to criticize how we go, and I think people just got to remember the position that we're in. I think, I put down a couple of notes. I thought, especially seeing Trainer kick his first goal.
He's another I missed him, yeah.
It was awesome. I think just those celebrations and the boys getting around, I think they understand the situation they're in, which is awesome. So, we didn't lose by that. Like, I thought we would have got smashed in the end, but I think we actually, we stood strong, and I think it was better than last week's performance, to be honest.
It kind of, for the second week in a row, had 100-point loss written all over it at various stages, didn't it? And you've got to give credit to the Crows for a lot of this as well. They're playing pretty good at the moment, and not many teams have three very good big forwards like they do. And McKelty going down not only hurt from his perspective, but then we had the reshuffle of things. Obviously didn't help either, did it?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was just thinking about poor old McKelty, because I love it. I love the way he goes about it, and I'm a big fan like yourself.
Yeah.
I think the good news is it's not ACL. I'm not going to mention the I word, but good news, it's not an ACL. But at least he got out there. He got a bit of a run. It might not have been much, but it did shuffle things around. And there's one thing that I sort of picked up: Bolter in the ruck kind of worked in a way. I don't know why. It was different, but I think his athleticism was really stood out, I reckon, when he was in the ruck.
I reckon I can tell you why it works, because I think Bolter's play type, I think he plays better off instinct rather than having to be measured and calculated and very precise with what he does as a defender. He's a good defender when he's playing well. I think, though, instinctively, he's a better see ball, get ball footballer.
Yeah. So maybe backline's not where he should be.
It's an age-old argument, isn't it?
Who knows? Who knows, man? Like, yeah, which is a good thing, I suppose. Like, he's full of talent, that kid, and I back him 100%. He played better than what he did last week. He did have a couple of bolter moments, but I think he a lot better than last week. Yeah, so.
What about, did you find, in your opinion, was there a perceived lack of effort from anyone or the team at various stages, or how did you feel that was across the course of the game?
I think we just collapsed in structure, to be honest. I think the big players like Fogarty, they were just massive, and I'm like, oh God, I would love to have a player like him. Curtin, geez. Like, can we get a Curtin? That would be fantastic. How do we get him? Get into the Tigers? But yeah, no, I thought he was amazing. Poor Lynchy, I think he was just. I love him. He's got us 2 premierships, and I'm not gonna beat him down. I think it was just one of those days for him.
Yeah, it's. He shouldn't have done it. Obviously, as a leader of the club, he needed to handle it a bit better. And I don't want the following comments to feel like it's deterring from it or excusing it, because it's not. He'll cop his ban, and it is what it is. But if that's been a build up of about 3 or 4 years, I reckon.
100%.
And this isn't excusing it, but there's truthfully a part of me that thinks, not just with him, but if the frees for being scragged out of every contest relentlessly were paid, he wouldn't be as angry. And then if you couple on top of that, our delivery to him is shit ass. Like, I saw one. Jacob Hopper was running towards 50 unopposed and got it nowhere near him. I'm like, I can understand why he's pissed off, but he can't be doing shit like that. He's lucky he didn't really land, to be honest, but he'll still cop some weeks.
No, exactly. And I think we need to start lowering the eyes a little bit more. You're kicking it straight to Lynch. He's got about 3 players on him every time. I think Fall is showing so much promise as well. He's such a competitive beast, I reckon. He's always up in there, always going for the mark. If he doesn't go for the mark, he's always tapping it behind. I notice a lot.
Yeah.
He'll push that ball on, which is fantastic. I can't wait to see him develop in the next few years. But like, yeah, everything changed, I think, when Lafau went out today, because everything sort of swapped around. But in a way, I think we need to swap plays around and see where they could play a lot better. And I think so too. Ross, I think Ross.
He was better today, wasn't he?
Ross, probably one of his best games besides, was it round 1 against Carlton?
Yeah, he had a good one. Yeah. He had a couple of fumbly moments earlier in the game, but on the whole, it was a pretty good, like, he actually, it was following up to try and correct what he had done. I think overall it was a good game. I think, again, it highlights how better he is as a centre bounce midfielder than a half forward. I think we have to get past this playing a midfielder as a half forward and hoping that it works, because between he and Sonzi doing that, they just both look equally as lost as one another.
I think they're just trying to looking at the board and going, this guy's got talent, let's just put him here and expect him to be good in that position. When it's like Maurice Rioli, like, let's put him down the forward line when he dominates in the centre. Watch him in the VFL. I'm a massive Maurice Rioli fan, and I think just his pressure, his speed is much needed. It's something new. I think we need to bring him in. Like,
do you think, did we miss a trick today by not changing our centre bounce setup again in the latter half of the game? I know Ross was newish. I mean, he was there last week. He definitely had more today.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the final percentages were. But Hopper, Taranto, Prestia must have had upward of 75 to 85% CBAs. There was no one new. There was no Campbell. There was no Mansell. There was no nothing.
Yeah. There's one name you said there, Campbell. Put him in the centre. Give him a run. Put Mansell in the centre. You know, these are the plays I want to see in the centre. Like, they might not be the best midfielder in, like, roving and getting the ball, but they got so much pressure where they could actually tackle that player down from the centre. If the other team gets it, they can put so much pressure on that on the opposition and tackle them down, spill the ball, move it on. You know, like, there's so much more to them being a
100%.
midfielder. And just, yeah, so
And I think as well, the big thing, you read a lot of comments about a lot of people getting frustrated at the lack of output from Campbell and Mansell and Steely Green. And it's all justified. Like, it's very, very true. I think then, I've said this before, that the reason their output's so low is because the other team keep marking the ball and it doesn't hit the ground. So they kind of aren't touching the footy. So putting them into the midfield then gets them a feel of the footy, maybe boost their confidence. They get a couple of easy possessions, lay a tackle. I just think it's a way of getting them involved into the game. And I think once they're not getting near the ball for 1.5 quarters, they just struggle to get back into the game, don't they?
100%. Bring them into the game, get them in touch, like exactly what you said, fire them up. It sort of reminds me of a bit of a Castagna and a Butler. Yeah, like how everyone sort of criticised Castagna, the way he played, but he was such a massive part of the team. Get him in there, get him fired up, get him with a touch of the ball. So
and someone, I don't know where this was written, but they raised an interesting question. Is it like we're too scared to have the difficult conversation with Hopper and Taranto about their balance of time on ground? Like I don't know how they're both still doing it, to be honest, from just their own personal health perspective all year, battering rams, respect to them. But for the sake of team balance and for getting other players educated and around the footy, something's kind of got to give.
I would play more. I'd probably play Taranto more forward.
Yeah,
I would give more time to the younger players to play, for rotation-wise, to put them through the midfield. Taranto, we know, can play forward. His only downfall is his kicking, obviously. But that's something you can work on. You can always improve when you kick in.
Yeah.
Hop, I think, I watch your show every week. You've mentioned about, I think, maybe Tiggs said it, 71. One of the boys are going to go, or potentially.
Well, he said there should be something that we entertain. Yeah, to even up the spots again.
Yeah. Oh, who would you keep? Hopper or Taranto? If one of them had to go, who would you keep? I'd probably say Taranto. Maybe. He's probably
both had good. It's really hard because I know we're saying that we need to mix it up, but they've also both had good years in their own right. But I think the problem is they've had good years as individuals, which is wonderful for them. But as a unit in the same spot, when you then add in Prestia, it just doesn't work. I know again today that we actually did okay in terms of clearance numbers. I was actually quite surprised, but we've said this a few times. It's about the quality of clearance. Other teams just get such better ball quality inside. Like the amount of times they were able to hit Thilthorpe or whoever on nice leads. That we just weren't able to. Ours are all blast kicks.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just thinking, who actually poor. I think Miller did all right, but I don't know. Thilthorpe was just beast, man.
He's a huge player.
What can you do about him, man?
Miller did well for about
he's
huge. Miller did well for about 3 quarters, and then I think just with the sheer weight of entries going in there,
he couldn't do anything.
Broke. Yeah.
What do you do about it? The only way you can combat that is having big forwards like that down our end. So I think our back line is awesome. Obviously, we've got Gibkiss coming back in. I think we need to keep Blight. We need to keep Blight. Bolter, we could try somewhere else, but I think we need to obviously keep Bolter. I think our back line's pretty solid. I think our forward line needs that big.
Well, this is what we're hoping for Fall and Armstrong. Armstrong's put on some good sides, but it's just going to take a bit of time, isn't it? And bloody Lafau went down because he can do that.
I agree. Those guys, they're definitely our future, I think. But for learning experience, obviously Lynch is probably 1-2 years.
You would think one at the most. You would think,
yeah. I think we just need that 28-year-old good forward player with that experience as well to keep continuing on teaching these younger guys as well, because there'll be a massive drop off if Lynch goes.
Yeah, exactly right. Jason, I think Jason's bang on. The back line's the strongest. It's probably been our most
Yeah.
consistent in terms of players in and out as well.
Yeah.
Forwards developing and midfield's flat. And I often feel bad for the back line. I feel like they get made to look a bit worse than what they actually are because of the lack of pressure coming from up the ground. And a lot of defense couldn't stop some of the ball coming in that we allow. So it's not always their fun. I do appreciate that people acknowledge that as well, that they are doing the best they can.
No, that's it. Yeah, 100%. Who will come in next week? VFL. I think Odin. Is he going to come in?
See,
what do you reckon?
Look, I would love to see him in. I think the club has categorically said today to John Ralph that he will play another week in the VFL, which I understand. Like, I get it. I think he could 100% do it next week. But when he's ready, to me, he will solve that half-forward issue a little bit again. And it might be at the expense of Sonzi, but Taj, I think, has better footy IQ and will play that role and understand it a bit better because he's done it before.
I was thinking more Taj to Green. I think maybe Green.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Morris Jr.'s a chance as well, but I don't want to see him come in as a small forward. Like that's the problem, isn't it? If he's playing his best footy as a midfielder, but we both know that if he comes into the AFL side, he's not playing in the midfield, and it'll be a complete waste of time.
It's actually overwhelming now. I find that actually overwhelming how many players we've got to bring in, who to push out and all that kind of thing, and to balance the team. So
yeah, it's crazy in a lot of ways, isn't it? That we're 3 wins, we've just lost by 70 or 60 odd points, and we've got selection headaches.
It's exciting. I'm pumped, man.
It is.
I'm pumped for the next 2 years. You know, like it's coming up, and I know it's gonna be bang, and it's gonna happen. Once that synergy happens, it's gonna be exciting. So you just got to stay on board. And the stuff about Uze being the wrong coach, like you got to remember his position. I'm not saying this to you, Michaels, but to a lot of people who always have a go at him. I think they're just gonna give him that little bit of time. It's his second year. Yeah,
I agree.
Situation he's in, it's pretty tough.
That's it. And I can definitely understand the frustration with the results. I get it. But look, I've been on record. I don't really count last year with all the shit that went on for Uze. Like, we are essentially, in my mind, 16 games into a fully blown, like top to bottom, including president, CEO, coach, 1,600 games experience, the absolute works.
Yeah.
That is a rebuild like no other. And yeah, it's no secret that we're going to have some shit games. And we've just played some quality teams. I mean, people also need to step back and look at, okay, the Bulldogs are 6, and on paper, honestly, they're a gun side.
Top 4 team, easy.
And a lot of their strengths are our weaknesses, unfortunately. Adelaide are 3rd. Sydney are resurging. Like, that's 3 good teams. So it kind of still feels accurate, those margins. And like I said off the top, they've beaten other teams by more than they've beaten us.
Yeah.
So I think that's still a positive in some ways.
Exactly right. Look, the good news is we're not Carlton, so...
Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, mate. So we could be. I reckon we're closer to a flag than Carlton. Look, I love Carlton. My great grandfather, captain coach Carlton, 930s. Like, got a soft spot for him. But it is sad seeing him in this position. But look, I think we've all got to be really optimistic about Richmond. We're in a very good spot right now. We've recruited well. Trust the system. They know the recruiting staff know exactly what they're doing, as you've seen in the past. So, just stick with it, guys. And, there's no bashing yet. Next couple of years. If we don't, I can understand the bashing, but in
2 or 3 years, we won't even remember the last 3 weeks of football. It'll be
exactly right, mate. Exactly right. Yeah.
So, all right, Skoosh, thank you so much, mate, for jumping on. I appreciate your thoughts. And, hopefully we can bounce back next week. Who we got? The Cats. Oh, shit, that's not good. We'll see how we go. I haven't looked that far ahead yet. Before you go, it is. You know what I find funny? With all footy clubs, how the cliche is always, we only take it 1 week at a time. We only look at what we're doing this week. But post-game, every player knows exactly who they're playing, where, and what time. So don't feed me that bullshit that you only look at 1 week at a time. You know exactly what you're doing and when. But no, thank you for jumping on, mate. Appreciate it. And hopefully we can see some more green shoots next week.
No worries. And look, I appreciate you having me on tonight. I'm a big fan of the show, and yeah, all the best, and keep bringing the good content.
Will do. Thank you, mate. Appreciate the support.
Awesome. Have a good one.
See you, mate. You too. All right, next onto the stage, we've got Nick. I didn't like my head going that big then. Nick, how are you, mate? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Michaels. How about yourself?
Yeah, going well, going well. It's, wasn't the result we were after, I guess, but what were your takeaways from the game? How did you view it all unfolding?
Look, I'm going to start with an unusual one first up. I think one thing that we got absolutely spot on today was the sub. And I say that in a positive way because with Lafell going down, which was pretty sad, first game back into the seniors, we had a guy that could basically play almost in any position on the ground.
Yeah.
And with pace. So I think today just shows you that, the sub is such a crucial part of the team, and he's got to be ready to come on from the first minute or the last 10 minutes of the game. And with his flexibility, yes, we did have to restructure almost the whole team. But again, if that was a defender or something else, he has played that role. He can go forward. But what it meant was that he went to his more accustomed position on the wing. Trainer went from the wing back to the back line. And we sort of sorted it all out. So, again, I just think that that sub is such a crucial that you don't just gift a guy a game there, but it's got to be someone that obviously has earned the game, but is flexible in a few positions.
It's a good point because if you do go a position-specific player, you're pigeonholed and you can, cause some chaos. And I know not the jury, but Camden kind of divides opposition these days with his age and should he play on and whatnot. But I've always thought he's the perfect sub because of the exact reasons you outlined. He's actually quite versatile and he's very much plug and play. And he can come on and do a variety of things and help the team out. So I'm with you. I think Camden's the ideal sub.
Yeah, he's also got the experience too, because like last week, it's Algar. You're excited at young kids coming on, but if you're a bloke that 60 games or 100 games, or into a career, and you think, oh, this kid's coming on for his first or second game, you're excited for him, but deep down you're probably thinking, what's he going to bring us in this tight game? But when you've got someone who's experienced, it can lift you and make the difference again. So, it's good that some of these players that are in the mix have got a few games under their belt. So, it becomes a strong positive introduction when they came on.
And what do you make of the final margin? Do you think it was reflective of where both teams are at? What things do you think we could have done better to negate some of that?
Unfortunately, we're between 8 and 10, sort of a 10-goal side per week. Unfortunately, with the current situation and the problems the forward line, now that's going to be heavily impacted further with Lynch. We're expecting to, be suspended, and that could be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Most people are saying 3 to 4, and I'd probably tend to agree that's about the mark.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be that 3 to 4. Now, again, with McKelty going down, which was a real shame, for a little while there, it just it gave us 2 honest focal points on the forward line, and you could see it at the ground. I was at the game today. You could see it at the ground that there was 2 genuine options going forward. Now, again, we've lost. Next week both of those players are going to be out, and that's what's going to hurt us. And we've now got to come up with a solution to maintain that 8 to 10 goals and somehow increase it
Against the Cats as well. And Liam Fawcett, he's out with an ankle as well, so he's not even going to be right to come in. Harry Armstrong's only going to come back for VFL, so I'm now kind of trying to work out how this is going to play. I mean, Sam Lawler comes back in, but maybe a Bolter or a Blight have to play forward.
Yeah.
Jonty Fall or Sims might have to come back in. That there's going to be some shuffling of deck chairs, which will be interesting.
Yeah. Well, look, we've still got a few tall options, and this Blight, I don't think there's anyone listening here tonight or was at the game that can't see that he deserves to be at this level. He's very confident in his ability. Probably a couple times he could have clearly marked the ball, but he's gone safety first and just make sure that he got either one or two hands to the ball to punch it sort of in front of him or towards the boundary line. But that'll come with a bit of experience. But it's a big body. He moves well. He reads the game very well as well. And maybe it is Bolter now going to the forward line, until some some new players can come in. Hopefully Armstrong, apparently Armstrong, Lawler as well. And I believe Short is available next week as well.
I mean, if you were to pick a line of the ground that you didn't want to lose two players from, it was the forward line. We were all excited to see how Lafau would go playing alongside Lynch for a little bit. Now we don't get to see it at all. What did you make of the coaching today in general? Was there any moves that you thought were a bit questionable? Were the moves you would have liked to have seen made? How do you think they've gone tactically over the past few games?
Today, I think we're just out of our depth a little bit. But in that second quarter, we did come back in. We lifted the work rate, and the pressure really went up, and you could see it and feel it at the ground. But then Adelaide, being the more experienced and probably sharper in the coach's box, what did they do? They just slowed the game down and just started chipping it around, and it just took the fizz that we'd built up. It just took it away, and then McKelty gets injured, and it just, unfortunately, we just couldn't get any really strong grip on the game as such. Look, the thing that's really apparent with the group of guys that I sit with, and they're all of my age, was one thing that we don't seem to do very well is stretch the ground. And that is just so important. For most of that game, we had every single player in our back line. Everyone was back of the centre. Now, in that situation, you get the ball, you just simply can't get it out. It stays in. So the way to do that is to get Lynch in the goal square, and then you've got to have either Campbell or Elgar or Green, one of those really nimble small players, 15 metres sort of in front of him. So that you've got at least two players, which then makes them accountable. They've got to bring up two players. All of a sudden, you can then stretch and open the ground. You get Hugo Ralph-Smith right on the boundary, and then the other winger on the boundary, and then all of a sudden you can manoeuvre through it, but you've got to be smart and just get through their defence. But you're at least opening up and giving you an opportunity, because when we turn the ball over, it just stays in there. And that's been the problem. And I think that's one thing we've really got to do a lot better, is really stretch the ground, open it up, to give us an opportunity to slingshot it out.
That's
and then
it.
all of a sudden, you've got someone really quick, like Campbell. I mean, he's so exciting every time he goes near the ball. He's an absolute match winner, and you could see that. And I said to the guys, in a couple of years' time, when we predicting where we're going to be in the ladder and in terms of a side, he's your match winner. When he got that ball on that boundary line and he slot that goal,
Good
that is
shot.
just incredible. And on the subject of Campbell, just to relate to the game of cricket, when you're playing a one-day game and you're batting, the captain has the opportunity, or the coach, to sort of shuffle the batting order depending on how good or how bad you're going. Now, what I mean to that, and how I'm relaying that to Richmond, is when you've got someone like Campbell who had, I think, 3 disposals in the first half, you have to get him involved. You've got to get the players that you need to try and lift you or get you in the game or to keep you in the game. You've got
Yeah,
to shuffle them around and give them an opportunity. When Lynch was getting ragdolled, he should have come off either off the ground to give him a 5 minute breather, or he should have been told to go to centre half back. He should have been told to go to centre half back or go to the wing for 15 minutes just to get away, clear the air, and give him some time to recapture his thoughts and get on top of things. And that's probably one thing that I think we lack. Um, Today was a golden opportunity to give Campbell or someone like that an opportunity in the middle. Ross finally got an
yeah.
opportunity in the centre, and he cleared the ball in the second quarter. He cleared it at least 3 times out of the centre with his poise and well balanced running it out. So you know he doesn't really get many opportunities in that midfield, but he did today, and he took it with both
He
hands.
did. Now, on the midfield topic, and it's a pretty hot topic to be fair, do you think there's genuine method to the madness of not having those other guys come in yet? I mean, I'm hoping that there's a logic and rational explanation that the coaching staff have got as to why they don't do it. But I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think I said it earlier that we don't give our small forwards a chance to get the ball at the best of times. We need to get them involved in the play more and actually get their hands on the footy to boost their confidence. But do you think there's a method or a reason as to why we don't see it changed around, or is it just we want to go with what we think we know works?
Look, I think it's really we've got a pretty new coaching panel. There's been 3 inclusions this year. You've got Truck, who's been there for a while, and really, and like the previous caller said, we're talking about a coach who's, and you said it yourself, 16 games in or whatever, and that's what we should be basing it on. We're playing sides. Even a couple of weeks ago when we played North Melbourne, they've got a coach who's been there several years, and they're 3, 4, 5 years into the same game plan. We're 16 games into a game plan,
Yeah.
and we're just trying to almost, it's like you're trying to stem the bleeding as such, like you want to, you got to put certain players in certain positions and not trial them anywhere else because you don't want to be blown away. And that also then means you're playing some players longer periods of time on the ground as well, which sometimes a good thing, but sometimes it's not, because then they get tired, they get the fatigue, and then come in the last quarter, sometimes they just run away with the games. But look, I don't think there's been too much really trial and error with players. I know that we sort of did it a couple of games, and Blight was one of them, and he looked good. He looked strong and capable on the forward line and also in the ruck. To me, it was obvious that he should have gone in the ruck today. I just, for the life of me, can't believe you got a guy that got the biggest roar of the day when he ran onto the ground, and coming back from a knee, and they put him in the ruck. I just couldn't believe it.
I did read somewhere that apparently Jacob Blight ran over to the bench and was like yelling out for some medical attention on his hand, apparently with the webbing of his hand. And I think he was told just to carry on and get on with it. So I'm not sure if that played a part in why he wasn't maybe doing so, because I thought the same as you. I thought Blight would maybe do the ruck. I wasn't surprised ultimately that McKelty did, but yeah, it'd be good to see some deck chair shuffle. But one of the deck chairs that has worked for the last 4 or 5 weeks, Sam Banks, another good game today, 25 touches, got that really nice goal after he ran around Dion Prestia. 822 metres gained. That's elite numbers by anyone's measure. How have you seen his transformation from, I suppose, a part-time winger, part-time defender to a full-time halfback flanker?
Oh, look, I think with the absence of Short, they put him in there, and the clubs realised if you're at the ground, and it probably should show on the TV as well, just what a great mover he is. He runs across the ground really well. You're old enough to remember Jeff Rains, how he used to run across the ground. There's players that just look really good when they run with the ball.
Yeah.
He's playing the Bashahuli role. quite simply. So you see him a lot. It's not a case of trying to build up his stats, but he gets a lot of 1-2s because they want him with the ball. That's a directive with the defence where they
Yeah.
can to give him the ball, to run the ball. He makes good decisions on the run. He kicks it very nicely on the run as well. Where someone like Brown, he's more stay at home. He's a great kick, and he's a very good decision maker as well. But one's your more runner, the other one's more stay at home type of thing. So I think they've done it right, and we're sure coming in when he does come in, he'll continue this role because he's just shown that he's just how talented he is, and what a good decision it was to put him back there.
It's been awesome, and you can just see him growing in confidence. And you're right; he's a good mover and a good user of the ball. So it's all the traits that you want in a half back. On the Jaden Short piece, you said he should be available this week. If
Yeah.
you're a selector, what part of the ground is he playing in?
For me, I still think that we're one winger short. Hugo's got one, and now we've got to look for this year as McIntosh as again a handyman where we can utilise him more than put him on the wing. Yes, he'll play wing, but I think we've got to sort of look at start looking at because we're getting into we're getting close to the end of the season. And you've got to sort of hit the ground running for the next year. The club is still thriving to get that 5-6 wins. We get 5-6 wins for the season, we should be absolutely over the moon. We've exceeded expectations, but it gives you a rolling start for the next year. And come next year, Michaels, you don't want to be saying, where's this guy going to play? You don't want to
Yep.
be experimenting. You want to really know virtually the bulk of your club, the list rather, where they're going to be playing. For me, I'm going to be putting try him on the wing. I think he's a good fit for the wing. Um, and that's where I'd be playing. Now, really think we've got to just tell him that there's no more spots for him. We've got a good defence. We've got numbers that can go there. And once Traynor went from the wing back to defence, he showed his worth again. Um, and really, I think that's where he's got to go from now on. He may even get an opportunity half forward line to
I
do
don't mind that
the
either.
role that Ross was playing.
Yeah, I'd be happy with either. I think he can add value to both of those parts of the ground. I think there'll be a lot of really pissed off people if I cannot see it happening, but if he does replace Banks, it's going to erupt. I just don't see them doing it. But anyway, yeah, it's it's going to be an interesting next week. How do we try and bridge the gap? Like we're coming up against another quality side next week in Geelong. What learnings do you take from a game like today against a side who's not far off Geelong? I mean, they're pretty good in their own right, the Crows. What things would you try and address in a week to give ourselves the best chance possible of not getting blown out the park?
Oh, look, I think there's a very strong belief, and I know that for a fact amongst each other. They're really excited. They're really buoyant about the list, their future, but they also understand that it doesn't happen overnight, and it's going to take. But again, you get that 5 or 6 wins by season's end, we've actually leaped a year, so we've jumped a year in development. Anyone high up or will tell you that we've actually jumped a year in development, and we've got to strive for that. I think for us, what we've got to do is, and it really, again, unfortunately today, it really went, like you said, the two players that we just can't afford out of the side are both not playing there the next week. I think Lawler will have to come in and play on the forward line. You're going to have to again just persevere. That might mean Sims comes back in. It might mean Bolter goes forward. There's still some options. Brown is also a very good mark.
Yeah,
He is
true.
someone that could go forward because he's an elite kick. no matter where he plays. Brown can play on the half-back line. He can play wing, but he can also play as a centre forward because he's a good mark. So I think we've got some options, but the problem is the way we get the ball, deliver it in there, and you need two key players, two focal points, which we really haven't had all year.
It'll be interesting if we become a bit less predictable without Lynch, because every opponent knows where that ball's going 9.9 times out of 10. If we can be disciplined enough to not do that blast kick and work our way through it and just shift it across the ground slightly and give ourselves some options, it makes me wonder if we'll be a bit less predictable. But yeah, trying to imagine a way where we kick a big enough score is difficult with the players that we're missing. But it might be some good learnings for some other kids who are going to get a go in that position.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Look, like the previous caller said, and he was very well spoken, by the way. We just got to be patient, understand where we are. In our development, but also the coaching. It was good to see Uze come down to the boundary line and bark the orders from the ground,
Agree.
from the ground. And I like that because it's a bit more personal, and to hear it at the point of impact. Like as soon as you come off the ground, about to run on. But we've still got a long way to go. But there's some exciting things there. Elgar, for me, by the way, he's a genuine half forward player. You could see in his first genuine game, he understands how to run up the ground, present himself, and he got the ball quite a few times today by leading up the ground, getting the ball. He's just got to now, try and also know that there will be a little bit of pressure on him to be involved in score involvements.
That's right. That was the only thing for him, wasn't it? He probably just didn't have the full speed of the game at the start, which is completely normal for his first genuine game. And I think the Crows for the first 2.5 quarters were going at about 209 pressure, which is quite high. So I thought he worked into it quite well. And to get those 2 goals, it completely validated for me what I'd thought for a long time, that he just adds another score outlet for us that we don't currently have. Can mark and goal. Can kick on the run. He's got the smarts like he got with his first goal. And, it makes me smile when I see someone like Mark Stevens tweet that he was an absolute steal to get him where we did, the type of player he's going to be.
The one thing I will say in closing, because I know you'll want to get someone else on, is that these are all elite kids, and we can't forget that. Now, the fact that they're elite kids is they're very skillful, they're very talented, but it was being clumsy, and this is the problems. We're a little bit clumsy at times and create the turnovers. And this is where they haven't gelled because they haven't played together. But for kids that are, and they're all 18, you can see they just don't panic, which is unbelievable this day and age to have so many kids, 20 or under, and you can see they're not panicking. It's just they're fumbling. It's two different things. And these games that they're being fast tracked will, as I said, will work for us in the end.
Agreed. No, I appreciate you jumping on, Nick, and appreciate your thoughts as always.
Always good to see you, Michaels, and congratulations
you too,
on all the works that you're doing.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for all of your continued support, and hopefully we can chat next week with a few more positives to talk about.
Absolutely.
Speak soon, mate. Thank you.
Bye for now.
All right, next in we've got Sarge. Sarge, how are you, mate?
That sucked, didn't it?
I know. Kind of to tack on to the end of Nick's point, we had so many little chances along the way with chain possession to get him on a counter attack, and we just fumbled the ball at the wrong time, which didn't allow it to happen, which was a little bit frustrating. Your camera's frozen as well, which got you staring at the screen there.
Is it?
Yeah. I can hear you. Everyone can hear you. It's just
hang on. Is that better?
No, it's still frozen. That's right. We can still hear you though.
Oh well. Look. Yeah. It was to be expected. I mean, Crows Crows are very, very good. We're not very, very good, but that's okay. I guess it was just. I guess my frustrations with the game were more just to do with the whole Lynch saga that happened throughout the game, and honestly, I wasn't even shocked when he took a swing, because like I've been waiting. I'm not going to say I've been waiting for him to do that, but I've been expecting something to happen for the better part of about a year now.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, obviously, dumb as dog shit, shouldn't have done it, but it was definitely that felt to me like years of pent up frustration. But he just had to be better in the moment, I think, as a leader. Like, he's landing himself in hot water, and he's obviously very, very fortunate that it didn't really land as well as it could have. But he's going to spend some time on the sideline. And we're going to be in some interesting positions up forward.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were for most of last year, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly right. It's a very familiar spot, but I suppose we've got some fresh faces to try and fill the void. What did you make of the skill level today? I know skill can be, I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy with skill, and I know it's something that will improve with time and experience, but I actually felt today that some of it was more the experienced players that were letting us down a little bit.
I'm just going to call a spade here. It was poor. Our skills were poor. I probably could count the amount of good passages of play we had on one hand and not even use up the whole hand.
Yeah, it was like, there was just a few that stood out. I don't know if the ball got greasy along the way or anything like that, but we just hurt ourselves on a couple of really nice counterattacks that we had set up. But it wasn't.
I did just want to highlight John's comment. I watched Uze's presser. He's gonna the club are gonna ask for a please explain on Lynch's treatment. So
2 years too late, I reckon. But good that they're asking something. Again, doesn't excuse what he did, but he definitely did get manhandled quite substantially.
The thing is, it shouldn't have had to have gotten to this point. Like, we've been saying it for years, and everyone, and I had the same argument with my brother after the game. Like, it's been happening for years. We've been screaming about it for years, and it's only gotten to a point where Lynch has pretty much almost decked someone. For Uze to be like, okay, we're actually going to have a chat with the umpiring department.
Maybe Lynch has just internalized it for so long, and then maybe he just spoke up after the game and just had enough. Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll never know what goes on behind closed doors in that sense. I want to get your thoughts on uncontested possession. It seems to be a stat that we have a really bad habit of letting opposition get good numbers in. So Adelaide today at 251, their average is 209. It seems to be a really common trend where we allow teams a lot of extra free ball to get above their yearly average, and I just think that makes things very hard to defend.
Yeah, it's killed us for years. Even in the glory days, like sides like St Kilda and Gold Coast would absolutely slaughter us with uncontested ball movement, and I think our own uncontested ball movement has dropped off over the course of the year. At the start of the year, we were kind of good when we were playing an uncontested game, and then I don't know. In recent weeks, we've kind of shit the bed at it.
Yeah, I mean, to Nick's point earlier, we've lost our ability to spread the ground, like to be able to switch it out of the back line. We're very much just going down the line. And look, I've seen a lot of comments on my stuff, other people's stuff, whatever, saying that a lot of people think that's an Uze directive. I would be gobsmacked if we are training to just blast it down the line every time. I think a lot of it is to do with opposition setting up and forcing us to do that, because when we were playing well, we were doing the same thing. We were forcing teams to kick to Boston all the time. I think it's a combination of that and a combination of not having multiple layers to our game plan to work through it, that we're just too easy to work out, and teams are doing it too quickly now, and We just don't have an adequate response just yet.
Yeah, it makes total sense. That theory that teams are forcing us to do that.
Which is frustrating. You know, there was a couple of times late in the game, but we did decide or were able to move the ball quickly. And, you know, it leads to Lynch taking a mark on a nice lead. And it's like, that's what we're wanting to and trying to do. And teams are just restricting us too much. Would you still like to see players try and take off that 45-degree kick? Like if it's a 50-50 shot of landing, kicking it inboard to a player, would you rather us take that 50-50 shot at this stage of development, or would you rather us play it safe down the line?
I reckon. Do you reckon it would hurt us to get a little bit ballsy with how we move the ball?
I don't think it would hurt. I mean, we might get scored against a bit more frequently when turning it over, but I've always been of the view that I would much rather see a turnover happen trying to take the game on like that to put ourselves in a better position and take it as a learning if we stuff it up, than just to keep bombing it repetitively down the line and the other team keep marking it. I think we end up getting scored on anyway. It just takes them 5 seconds longer. So why not try and take the dangerous kick if it's on? And if it doesn't come off, then we adjust, we learn, and try again. But you would like it to become somewhat instinctive, I would have thought.
Yeah, 100%. After we won the Carlton game, my brother said something interesting. He said we embraced our imperfections, and that's what kind of led us to win that game. Does that make any sense to you?
I think it's very, very much what I suppose Dimmer was kind of making the team all about in a lot of ways. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to play the best version of yourself. But I think the one thing that I'm not sure on that we're doing now, I don't know if we're letting players play to their strengths to the most of its capability. Like, I don't know if there's more parameters now within our game style that there was previously. It doesn't seem as chaotic, but I just don't know if that's because we're not at the level yet and can't get on the same page yet. So there could be some reasons why. But, yeah, you just wanted to play with a bit more freedom. We just struggled to get too many players into the game. Like, when I look at the disposal numbers, and I know disposals aren't always the be-all and end-all, but we had Luke Traynor, Camden McIntosh, well, he was a sub, so fair enough. But Mansell, Fall, Green, Lynch, and Lafau, all under 10 possessions. And, yeah, I mean, 3 of them were on 7. Steely Green was 4. He's had not a great month, Steely Green, if I'm being totally honest.
No.
Lynch too. I mean, up until maybe the third quarter, Lynch hadn't had a possession. So yeah. I just think we don't get enough players involved with the footy to be able to get confidence to work through situations.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm looking at the stats now. Like even Tim Taranto as our primary midfielder, he only got 19 disposals off of off of 81% game time. Like, surely he's got to do better than that.
Yeah, he's interesting, isn't he? Like, it's funny, like you mentioned that as a number, and then if we think back a couple of weeks ago when Kane McAuliffe was playing, he had almost identical stats off 69 or 65% game time. I think the caveat to that is that teams probably put a bit more work into Tim Taranto than they do Kane McAuliffe. So that's probably somewhat of an explanation, but at least it meant Hopper kind of got off the chain. Presty has still got 29. I don't think there'd be many weeks where we'd get all 3 firing. And again, that's probably still further to the point why it's probably not a bad idea to mix it up. And I've seen a few comments about the suggestion of putting our small forwards in as midfielders doesn't work because they're not midfielders. I'm not necessarily meaning as a full-time midfielder, but if I look at Hawthorn, for example, the Wizard was in there. He's not a full-time midfielder, but he was in having some centre bounces. You look at Cosy Pickett from Melbourne getting some centre bounces, Liam Ryan. Centre bounces. It's part of just forming part of the rotation to mix up what it looks like, to add a bit of spark every now and then, and just to give ourselves a different look at it, because we become too predictable and we've just got no variation whatsoever. So I know they're not fully fledged mids, and I don't expect them to be, but I don't think it's acceptable in modern day football to have a half forward or a forward to just play that role full time. I think they've got to have other strings to their bow to be able to try and get different parts of the game back on our side. And I think they've got the talent to, more importantly. Seth Campbell's got the talent to.
Yeah. Black Crows just said something interesting. We used to do it with Shea as well. Like, why can't we do that with like a Maurice Rioli or a Seth Campbell, like the way we used to play Bolton? And when Houghton comes into the conversation, we do it with him as well.
I completely agree. I just don't think we'll see it. I don't know why. And I would love one of the journos at the Thursday presses to ask why. I just can't see it happening because we all know what's going to happen. Morris is going to come back in and be played as a small forward, not going to get near it because I truly don't think he'll make it as a small forward. And then everyone will be up in arms again. I think, we just ultimately need to get a bit more flexible with what we do in the midfield. I think we would be so much better off. And if there's ever a time to experiment, it's now. You need to work out what you've got for next year too.
Yeah. I feel like you and I have had this conversation a few times now about the midfield.
Yeah, it seems to be ongoing. But I think everyone's got the same type of thoughts. So where do you stand on Taj Houghton?
Get him in. Get him in now. Get him in now. I love him. But I do understand that he's coming off an ACL and we want to be conservative with him because, young body coming off of probably one of the worst injuries you can have. And, he's part of our future and we want to take care of him. Same with Lawler, same with Smiley. And we want to cook these players as much as possible. Not physically cook them, but like...
I know what I mean. Let them build.
Yeah.
It was pretty I know people will say the Bull Ants were shit, and I get that, but you can only play against the players that are out there in front of you, and in his second game, he was pretty good. He was pretty good.
Did he play a full game, or was he on managed minutes? Because I'm hearing both.
He played 4 quarters, but he probably missed at least a half of most of those quarters. So it was still managed, but he didn't spend an entire quarter off the ground like he did in the first game.
Okay.
But, he looked really good. So he's going to definitely add some X factor to us. Michael's put an interesting question. I've heard a few people mention this. Would you consider playing Taj off halfback, similar to how like Collingwood used Dacos and North Melbourne used Sheasel in their first years?
I would trial it. If it works, sure. If it doesn't work, play them where they're meant to be played.
I just like his IQ and his goal sense too much. I wouldn't be against seeing it if it meant he got more of the football, but it's going to be exciting to see him come in. But there you go. So apparently he played 75%. There we go. Thank you for that, Cap. That's good to know. What are you sort of forecasting for the changes for next week? We're obviously going to have 2 outs in Lafau and Lynch at a bare minimum. Who have you got coming in?
Sims would have to come in, wouldn't he?
You'd think by default. I think Lawler's going to be in as well.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I'd bring in Tall, whether it's Sims, Gray, or we bring Blight, or we bring in Gray. Did I say Gray?
Yes, or he'll still be out.
Yeah, we shift Blight forward and chuck Gray down back. Oh no, Gray's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out. So Blight, it's out of Blight. Bolter, one of them might have to do some work down forward because Fawcett's out as well. Samson Ryan's out. Bauer may get some consideration. I'm trying to think who else. Cozzy, I don't know whether we're going that deep to Cozzy, but
what about Oliver Hayes-Brown?
D4's chuck that in there as well. He was taking the piss in that VFL game for anyone who watched it.
Get the stack pack in.
Look, I've said that I wouldn't mind seeing him get a game at some point. I don't think he'd be a very good key forward, but he's tall and he can help in the ruck. I don't know. We're going to have to get creative, right? So it's not
what have we got to lose? He's been on the list and playing consistent VFL for a year and a half now. What have we got to lose? Chuck him in.
People are getting behind getting him in, by the way. I'm Nuclear Days. I'm with you, and I got laughed at when I suggested this in the VFL live call. Tyler Young ventured forward and kicked 2 goals, and the set shot
That's
he
insane.
had, one of them was on the run from 55, and the other one was a set shot from a 50-meter penalty. The kick looked technically clinical. Like, you know when you hear about a defender having a shot for goal, how you have this preconceived idea that it's going to be just a dog's breakfast like Ryan Garthwaite kicking action style and be all over the shop. This was a clinical kick for goal. I don't mind it. And this is what I mean. I know people get all on edge about playing defenders as forwards and forwards as defenders, but when you lose your 2 forwards, you want someone up there who can take a mark, who can be competitive. Why not? Just roll the dice and try something. Yeah, we've got to be creative here.
Yeah, 100%. Does Bolter play next week, or does he miss out on curfew reasons? Because it's a Saturday night. It's a Saturday 4:15 game in Geelong.
In Geelong. So 4, 5, so would it be 4, 5, 6, 7?
I'm going to say no.
I think that would be, I mean, unless he's getting a police escort back home. I mean, I didn't mean that the way that was probably going to come across, actually. But you know what I mean? If he was getting able to go 150 down the highway, I reckon that might be cutting it too close.
No, I think Bolter comes out as well.
And so that makes it even more difficult again. Like, what a week. Something at 3/4 time. Yeah, we might have to.
Why? On Bolter, or not really Bolter, but Nank was not on the field for a long time, for a while. Like, Nank did not play that much. I saw Lafau in the ruck, and then he got injured, and then I saw Bolter in the ruck.
Now, Toby had 85% time on ground, which is relatively high. That was in our top 6 or 7. It probably just felt more noticeable when he wasn't on because we were having to shuffle deck chairs around to be able to compete in the ruck.
I think we're cooked. I think we're just going to be cooked. We should forfeit next week. That's my argument.
I tell you what, if we can somehow keep next week to 50 or 60 points, I know that seems like an extreme margin. If we keep it to that, we've done well. With what's going to be missing and what we're going to have to try and create, just some bullshittery forward positions out of nowhere, it would be a minor miracle. So I'm laughing because Skits is gone with Bolter with a helicopter home. I like that, Skit. That's a good suggestion, actually. I don't mind that.
Chuck, just chuck Tyler Sonsie at full forward. What have we got to lose?
No, I'm on the Tyler Young page. Let's get Tyler Young in. So
yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you what our ins and outs are going to be because there's so much. Like, how many weeks is Lynch going to get? He'll probably get. I reckon 4. Yeah, I reckon 4 as well. So that rules him out for the Essendon game, our Weagles game, our game against Collingwood, and our game against Gold Coast.
Yeah, it's not great. And annoyingly, the Essendon one probably feels like one we could be in, and then we lose a key pillar to that. But no hope for the West Coast game. Oh, possibly. Well, not without a key forward. I don't know. It depends on who steps up in the meantime. It's going to be an interesting selection. Like, you know, it's funny, isn't it? You see a lot of people saying that we need to maybe look at swinging the axe a little bit with some changes, and inadvertently, it's probably going to happen just by the things that have played out. So like, we could see 4 or 5 changes, a lot of them being forced. If we think that Lynch, Lafau, and Bolter are 3 forced changes at a minimum, who knows what else is in line.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think we've won our games for the season at this point. We butchered our chances. In that 3 or 4 stretch where we were playing decent footy.
We did. Any final thoughts from you on the game today or next week?
Today was ugly. Next week's going to be uglier. We're all in this together. We'll be all right. We've seen 3 flags. Let's not get greedy. We'll just let's just support each other as supporters, and
one big family.
Yeah, one big family, and one big family that doesn't give up on a coach a year and a half in.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of seeing the Sakuze stuff. I don't.
It infuriates me.
It's way too early for that. I get people get frustrated, but we're not. Let's not be Carlton. Let's not go down that path. We can be better than that. We can be frustrated, but we don't need to do that.
Last year was an anomaly. A quarter of the players were kids, quarter of the players were retiring, quarter of the players didn't want to be there, and the other quarter were injured. So this is year 1.
Exactly right. Agreed. We're 16 weeks in. But thank you for jumping on, mate. I appreciate your support and your views as always.
No worries.
And hopefully we can jump on next week with a good performance against the Cats. We'll see how we go there.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Thank you, mate. Speak soon.
See ya.
All right, Dan, we'll bring on Black Crow. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
Yeah, going well. Just enjoying everyone's thoughts about the game and what we can do next week. But before we get to the next week part, what were your thoughts on today's game? What did you like? What didn't you like? What did you want to do better?
I think over the last 2 weeks, there's been effort there, but like I will admit, I will throw myself under the bus at halftime. I don't like to normally do it, but I did call for Uze, but I think that was mainly the bevies drink speaking for me at halftime. Bit of frustration to come out, but I'm not normally to sack a coach. I think, like you said, it's basically his first season given the shit fight we had last year.
Yeah.
And I think what we all need to remember is the fact that the start of the season, it's a young team, so they're going to be full of energy. But as the season progresses, their legs are just going to get tired and they're going to run out. It's just natural. They've got to build up that stamina. And I think overall, aside from the scoreline, the effort and that was there. There's not too much I really took away from it other than they just tried. And there was the only thing I would take as a negative was we were pretty sloppy today with disposals.
What do you put that down to? I mean, was it a little bit? I often try and give the benefit of the doubt to the other club putting on great amounts of pressure because I feel like that teams now know if they get to that 180, 200 mark, it's probably enough to break us quickly just because of where we're at. But to your point, it was the senior guys. I mean, Timmy Taranto was put quite a few handballs to people's feet. Ross missed a couple, then he sort of butted up. But yeah, what do you put it down to?
I think that it all comes down to like today the most I think was that let us down, like I said, were the seniors. But with Taranto, I don't know. I think he just had a pretty off game. I say pretty off. He still had a lot of touches, but he wasn't at his as clean as he usually is. I think you put that down to him having an off game. But with the other guys, I think they were trying to run and carry the ball a bit too much. But I think the pressure that Adelaide were putting on to us was making us go, oh, shit, we got to hurry up and get rid of it. Like the old saying, oh, you're hot. I think they were kind of just trying to force things when it didn't need to be forced, overbiting with handballs and things. But you live and you learn. It's a young side. That's what happens.
And what did you make of the Adelaide's turnover game? I just found maybe more so in the second quarter that when they turned it over in the back line, they were just in a lot of space really easily. It just felt like we were kind of a bit sloppy and out of position.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned that because it was one of the things I wanted to touch on. I had some stats here that I'd put down before I come on. And for the total game, we had 70 turnovers and they had 52. So, I mean, obviously, we were expected to have a little bit more because we're just trying to get the ball going and whatnot and try new things. But for a team in the top, what are they, third now, I think, for the top four, for them having as many errors as they did, especially in the first half, I thought was what really kept us around, to be honest. If they were clean from the get-go, I think the margin would have been a lot bigger than what it was, to be honest.
They did miss a few goals. They maybe would have usually got well. Their bigs had a bit of a field day. Thilthorpe is an absolute monster. Miller probably ultimately got his colours lowered a little bit later in the game. I thought for the first 2.5, 3 quarters, Miller was really good. I just felt
Yep.
like that when we had to shuffle around when McKelty went off, I think it just ended up being a bit too much for the whole back line, didn't it? It just seemed like we couldn't keep our
Yeah.
composure or our structure to be effective in defence.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And I think as well, McKelty going down as like it's not a small thing, but it's not a major thing, thankfully, for the injury. But I think the guys seeing him go down, I think that kind of affected him,
Just from a
affected the
spirit
team.
perspective.
Yeah, because they've waited it was like 400 days or something for him to come back, or something silly. Yeah, and he to see him go down. One thing I did see when I was looking over the stats, and I thought was very interesting to touch on quickly, with Lynch and whatnot, that he's been getting the shit end of the stick, poor bugger. I feel so sorry for him, and I think the build up today, as much as I don't condone it, I think it was quite warranted. He just lost it. And I don't condone that side of things, but you could see the frustration was brewing, and I'm surprised it didn't happen any earlier. But one of the things I wanted to say was McKelty had 26% for time on ground. Lynch had 87, and they both had 2 touches. So that just goes to show you how much he struggled to get into the game. McKelty also scored 11 points in the AFL fantasy. Lynch got 3. So it just goes to show you.
He was on 15 at one point before he kicked
Yeah,
that goal.
he got for the strike, he got deducted.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But yeah, I just found that really interesting when I was scrolling through the stats that he had like over double his play time, and they had the same amount of touches.
I just want to bring this up quickly. Ballarat Tiger, this is exceptional. Next week, Geelong, Cats cotton on, Tigers hotting on. Bravo! I like that. That's really that's very good.
That's really good.
Tiger. That's a great. I'm with you. I would play Tash Hotton. I think that's great.
He's special, that kid, isn't he? He's unreal.
He looks really good. I'm excited. It's funny. Like, the VFL is going to, in some ways, get a lot more eyeballs on it than the AFL with the names coming back next week. Like, we're going to see Harry Armstrong back in, Gibcus back in, Hotton running around again. I don't know if Jaden Short's going to play VFL or AFL, but it's going to be quite interesting to see how that all goes for us.
Yeah, I honestly think, and like touch wood, I honestly reckon that Hotton is going to end up being better than Shai Bolton. This kid has so much class, like for how young he is, and watching him in the VFL game just gone, he's just so silky. And he didn't even play a full game, and he had was it like 20 touches or something?
25 touches, I think.
Yeah. It's just unreal.
He didn't even break a sweat. He was just cruising around.
No, that's quite scary to think about, actually, isn't it? I mean, the whole dynamic changes when you get into, AFL going from the reserve grade, so to speak, VFL. But, I mean, he's definitely an exciting prospect, that's for sure.
On today's game, Tyler Sons is a name that I saw getting mentioned quite a lot on Twitter. He had 12 disposals, 1 mark, 1 tackle, 1 clearance. What did you make of his game? It feels like he's torn a lot of people. I think the big criticism people had on Sonzy today was maybe his lack of, I suppose, courage or going in for the hard ball or things like that. Did you see any similar?
There were a couple of stoppages where he was around, where it was one actually where Ben Miller, I don't know if you remember, I think it was the second quarter, where the ball got kicked out of their back line and Ben Miller was around the ball and he had a chance to trap it. And Sonzy was there with him. Neither of them went for that ball where it bounced and they ended up rebounding it. But there were a couple of stoppages where I think Sonzy kind of just sat back and expected a quick, easy handball out. And I liked Sonzy when he came in, but he's not really lighting the world on fire, which is a shame for a player that was hyped for quite a while coming through the system. I don't think he's really done us any favours, unfortunately.
I'll still die on the hill that we have to see him as a centre bounce mid-player.
100%.
But we're not going to see it. The reality is we're not going to see it. I think the mind's been made up from a lot of people. Possibly
I just don't understand why. I just don't get why they won't give it a crack. They're happy to try other things, but one thing, just give him one go and see how he goes.
Steely Green, 4 disposals, 1 mark. Look, I know meters gain's not the be-all, end-all of stats, but he had 8. What have you made of his, let's call it, month of football? Like, he must be, I haven't got his pressure acts up here, but I'm guessing he's doing a lot by way of pressure. That's what is being deemed as valuable to keep him in the side. Is that where you think it's at with Steely?
I think, I was just trying to find his precious stuff there too, but I can't find it. I think he To sum up this month, I would say in one word, he's been disappointing. But at the same time, he does what Maurice Rioli does when he comes into the side. He doesn't get a lot of touches, but he chases a lot and applies that pressure. And I think, to have a player that can do that is very important. But at the same time, I think it would be really nice if he got his hands on the ball a little bit more. Keeping in mind, he's only played 21 games. So just from
he's still
looking
young,
there,
isn't he? It's
yeah,
fair call.
it'll come. And I honestly said when we picked him up, he reminded me a lot of Baker in the way he plays. But time will tell. He's still young. He's still cooking, so to speak. So hopefully he can get things going and just pick it up. But yeah, I don't know. I think if he doesn't perform well next week, I think with the likes of Sam Lawler and all the other guys coming back from injury and whatnot,
Taj will spot in a heartbeat.
100%. And I think he needs to be sat down and have that discussion and be like, mate, if you're not going to perform, you're out, Taj is in. And I'd be all for that. Like Jasper Alga, like I sent you, that kid, he finally got it.
You don't understand how relieved I felt that he delivered what I thought he would, because I've been banging on about it for so long. I'm like, if he flops, this is going to look so shit.
But
he was good.
He was good. And what I really liked about him, and I spoke to my dad at halftime, he didn't have like a lot of touches, but he just kept leading. And that's all you need. He led and he was in contests. He had a couple of really good crumbs. And I was reading as well. I lost where it was exactly. I'm just trying to scroll down. We had more 1%ers than they did by quite a bit. I just can't find where it was. But yeah, we ended up having a lot more 1%ers, which shows you the effort that we're applying. It's just we're being so far into the season now, the legs are definitely starting to fatigue.
Yeah. I think Jasper had 11 disposals, and that's kind of on par with what he gets at VFL level, but
yeah,
he tends to do the right things with it. And I feel early on he was probably a touch off the pace, as to be expected, but yeah, to get 2 goals was good reward for effort. What about Luke Traynor? Went down, finally got that goal that he's been craving for so long. It was a nice mark too, to be honest. He actually took a really strong mark.
It was a good grab, good contested grab.
I mean, he, with our potential forward dilemma issues next week, he might even be a candidate to get swung forward. I know Uze's tried it before. We have to find something for next week anyway.
Yeah, 100%. He's just, I don't see a world unless something catastrophically bad happens where he gets dropped. Like, he's just been very consistent. He's doing his job. He's competing, and he's, to me, even though the numbers for him weren't so high this game, he kind of seems like he's been playing in the system for a long time, which is quite scary because he's been there for not even a year. So I think he's another one to keep an eye on. I say that every time I come on here. I can't speak highly enough of the kid. So
no, he's a ripper. I'm really enjoying him. A few people have asked about Ryan Mansell. 7 disposals today, 1 mark, 6 tackles. I mean, 6 tackles is actually quite good output from a number perspective. I think he was second highest, equal second highest with Taranto. Prestia leading the way with 7. Yep. What have you made of his games in the last few weeks as well? I mean, we had, I guess, a lot of high hopes for him at the start of the year, but just hasn't seemed to be able to get involved in recent times.
No, he's definitely, in my opinion, a momentum player. When the game is on, like in that Carlton game, he played really well back in round 1, I thought, when he was in that. But I very much think he's a momentum player. If we're collectively not doing so well, I feel like he kind of fizzles out. He kind of reminds me of like Cyril Rioli in a way, not like the play style, but like when the game's close, he'll get in there and rip it in. But if you're getting flogged, he's like, oh, well, bugger it, whatever. Like I don't really think he has that in between. But again, he's still quite young. And he's like one of the leaders as well, which is good. We've got a younger leader in there, but I don't know. I don't know. Do you think if he doesn't perform well over the next couple of weeks, it warrants getting dropped down to VFL, or what are your thoughts on that one?
I don't think we'll drop him to VFL. I think we rob players like him of a chance to even get the footy.
100%.
And unfortunately, with Lynch and Lafau now missing, it's going to actually be 10 times harder for our smalls to get into the game. I mean, the only way around it is if we literally just grubber kick it in.
Yeah.
You got Tom Stewart. I'm not sure if Blitzarves is still playing down in defence or what he's doing these days, but Geelong's defence are going to have a field day if we keep putting it in the air. non-stop.
If Tom Stewart doesn't get 40 plus touches, I'll give it away.
Yeah, I know.
I reckon he'll run havoc.
Yeah, so that's a little bit concerning. So I'm just worried about how do we get our smalls re-involved in the game? And that's where I just think we have to be a little bit creative and get him up around the ball a bit more. And that's why I really like seeing Seth up and around stoppages and why I wouldn't mind seeing him roll through the middle at times. But yeah, maybe, I mean, we've seen Mansell go in there a couple of times and the ball just didn't go his way. I do tend to agree that it's very much a confidence type thing, I think, for a lot of them. And it's a long season, and to your point that the leagues might be getting a bit weary for a lot of players. I just feel like we're now kind of entering that phase of football where it's easy to break us quickly just with confidence, and it's going to be hard to stay in games, I think, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I do think one thing that will boost our confidence is, as silly as it may sound, getting all the young guys in, like Houghton, Smiley, Lawler back. I think all the players surrounding them getting that young and like the youth and energy, and will also rub off on some of the other players. And like I was looking at the stats before, like Dion Pressia is like one of the oldest blokes on the ground, and he was the leading possessions for us. If I really, really hope we sign him again for another year just for the experience, because at the moment his body's holding up really well coming back from you know what, we won't mention the word. But yeah, he I think he's been unreal in his return. And I saw a couple of comments on here. I don't want to out anybody, but people were saying about like Hopper being disinterested and whatnot. He was second most with 28, and he's been very consistent over the last few weeks in terms of touches. So I wouldn't say he's disinterested. I would say he's probably a bit demoralized because it's not good. It's not good getting belted 2 weeks in a row. So I would say he's a bit demoralized.
I agree. As much as I talk about wanting to have a different midfield mix, it's not really a slight at Hopper or Taranto, because I think if we look at them both as individual players, they've both had, I mean, Hopper especially, probably a career best year, to be honest, from an impact disposal-wise. He's played this year how he probably played his last year at GWS or his last couple of years. They just don't work as a collective mix. But Hopper and Taranto will be in the top 5 of our best and fairest comfortably. And I think not only is it the demoralizing part that you mentioned, but I reckon if you sort of take into account how much of the workload they are wearing the brunt of in the centre bounce and getting bashed every single centre bounce and stoppage, that's going to take its toll on them physically as well. Like that, you're going to get worn out at some point, and that's why I'm still gobsmacked that they're doing as many as they are.
Yeah, so many CBAs. And the thing is as well, especially when you've got a short turnaround, like we've had a couple of those. I was reading, we've actually had one of the toughest draws this year, like forgetting about where we are as a club. Statistically, against the teams we came across earlier in the year, we've had one of the hardest draws this season. And to be where we are, you know, everybody, and I'm pretty sure everybody here in the comments didn't even expect us to get a win. I'll be honest, I was one of those, and we have 3. So we've already exceeded expectations by a country mile. And I think, you know, it's just going to get better. And unfortunately, we do have to ride the tough times. And, you know, let's be honest, Geelong will probably absolutely give us a belting next week, but there are lessons to be learnt in that. So
Kat wants to know, do you think without Tom Lynch, will our entries be less predictable?
I think so, because everyone, and I think you mentioned it before, everybody just expects us to bomb it on top of Lynch's head. If we don't have a tall forward, you may as well just grubber it in like you mentioned. So we'll just, yeah, I don't know. I think it'll definitely shake it up. We will struggle in that regard, but I would like to maybe see like come in like Tom Sims and chuck him down there. I'm not expecting him to really kick a bag, or he might kick one, but if we just have a big body down there to suck in that presence, I feel like their smaller forwards will be able to go to work. And hell, if a player like Tom Stewart is playing on him, they might drop off on him and he might be able to get a couple easy goals because they don't respect him. So it could work in our favour. It couldn't. It could. We'll see.
Bit of Pagan's paddock. Clint reckons just drop Seth at full forward and clear out the 50. Just let him burn people on the ground with his speed. Why not? Honestly, if you're going to get creative, just try random stuff like that. It's funny how football's changed, isn't it? Because not long ago, there would always be someone kind of deeper in the 50, but now as soon as the ball goes down the other end, everyone's in the front half of the ground. Yeah. And that's I get frustrated when I watch the game, but maybe sometimes it's because I can't see further ahead of the field. But the amount of times that we would turn the ball over on our half back line, especially today, I felt like some of our players took 3 or 4 seconds too long to make a decision. As EJ often says on Monday night, just go with it. Whatever your instinct is, do it. And by the time we take that extra 3 or 4 seconds, we're giving the opposition a chance to set up what they want to do, which takes away what we want to do. And I just think we keep robbing ourselves of chances. I just think we've got to be more instinctive and get the ball moving quicker. But maybe there was not much on down the ground. So I'm mindful of that too. But then maybe it's on us to keep some shape or structure further down to give us an option.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is as well, like we may not be, because of where we are as a club and how young we are, the skills might not fully be there. But in saying that, the youth and the energy is. So if, like, there was an example today that I want to bring up with Torino. He beat a tackle and then tried to beat another one and got done because 2 of them came in and got him on the wing and they rebound and kick a goal. If he beat that first tackle and just thought, stuff it, I'll punt it long, because usually he does do that. You've got the small forwards up there to go to town like Seth Campbell. Put him in a foot race. That's one way to tire out some of the Adelaide defenders. Just put him in a foot race and see what happens.
And it makes them uncomfortable too. If you're running one-on-one with someone who's a bit quicker than you, you might give away a free kick. And that's the reason why I want the ball moved quicker, because if you can get the ball inside your 50 quickly when the defense isn't set up, they're actually more inclined to give away a free kick. We saw it ourselves. We gave away about 5 free kicks to their forwards because they moved it quickly, and we were worried about Thilthorpe or Fogarty getting on the lead and marking it. So they held, and they got I know we don't typically get those free kicks, but it's worth a shot in case we do get them. And to me, that makes a big difference. Like, you can generate another 5 or 6 like proper shots on goal.
Yeah, 100%. And I think our backs are doing a good enough job, like, as it is. You got to remember, people blame the back line for certain things. The ball doesn't get down to the back line if the midfields do their job as equally as the forwards. And one thing I would have liked before, now he's going to cop a huge suspension, Lynch, I would have loved to have seen him come up to centre-half forward, get him up the ground. He's the type of player, especially now how he's getting on in his career, he needs to get touches to feel good about himself and whatnot. So if he's coming up the ground early and presenting, he's a big body. If you're going to stand in his way, you're going to get hurt. Like that spoiler did today. Kudos to that young fella that got in his way, because I would have said, go for it, mate.
All yours, you take it. I'm with you. Michael, Michael, we actually spoke about this. Tiggs kind of mentioned it on a Wednesday night, but with the way the midfield mix works, if a club was to inquire about Taranto or Hopper, is it worth considering? Because at some point in time, we will need to get minutes into Lawler, into Smiley, into Houghton, McAuliffe was showing good signs. Is there any thought that would we entertain that, or do you think they're important to keep?
Look, that is something I have thought about myself, and I think that's a good question to ask, Michael, definitely. I entertained the idea a while ago, but after looking at the stats after the games and whatnot, if you think about it, if you don't have one of them in there, you're losing out on like 20-plus touches a game in a player. And if you bring in a younger player, for a while they're not going to have those numbers, and it will eventually build. But in the short term, if we lost like one of those guys, we would definitely get spanked around in the midfield. That's for sure. So
I think that's the fundamental issue, isn't it? That if we were to remove one of them and put in, say, a Lawler, a Smiley, whatever, that Lawler and Smiley aren't getting 28 touches a week at this stage of their career. So it would be a lot more short-term pain, a lot more exposure for them. So it's just probably the trade-off with what you would rather. I would rather keep them both, but you would have to adjust the percentage of time spent in the midfield and utilize them at half forward to then boost up the other midfield minutes of other players. I think there's ways around it. We just haven't explored it yet.
And hell, even like if all going well, one thing that I thought about after the game, because I was like, okay, Lynch is going to get rubbed out for weeks, especially with his record. If Smiley is in good enough nick to come in while Lynch is out, I reckon we play him up in the forward line. He's tall. He's the same size as Jack Rewalt, maybe a bit taller. Yes, he's young, but get him up there. He'll get his game time. He'll gradually build his fitness. It won't impact the midfield like the guys in there. And then you can rotate. If you have Sam Lawler in as well, you can rotate him and say Taranto, because Taranto used to play half forward for the Giants. Rotate them. And then rotate him back. And then if you want Smiley to have a run on ball, you bring Hopper out. So you always keeping one in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not just taking both of the experienced players out in one giant go. So
I think it was
that would be the way to go about it.
Skadoosh we had on first. We are talking about Dan Curtin, and it just occurred to me,
Yeah.
Smiley could be our Dan Curtin. 195 centimeters, play on a wing. Like, he smashed us today. He was an unbelievably difficult matchup. I know he's a couple of years ahead in the system, physically developed and whatnot. Smiley could play that role.
Oh, 100% he could. I think Dan Curtin may look a bit stupid, to be honest, in some bits of the game.
We kept trying to chip it over his head, and he just put his hand up and grab it, and then off he goes. Like, he kicked a couple of goals as well.
Yeah.
I think maybe Curtin's got some more miles in the legs, but that's what Smiley's got to build up to. I could see that being something to try.
Yeah, 100%. I think the luxury will have all going well, and if we predict the player that he's going to be. Obviously, it's hard to tell right now because he hasn't played a single game for us, like in the AFL, that is. But I definitely think he has the capacity to be a very versatile player. If you want him down back, he'll go down back. If you want him to go up forward, he can play up forward because of his height can play into it. But he's also so extremely mobile for how big he is. Like, that shouldn't be allowed to happen. Like, that kid was bred from great genes, I think.
Oh, yeah. And undoubtedly his tank's going to be the issue at the moment. To Justin's point, I definitely know that will be the case. But the only way to build that tank is to get the run into him and try it. So, and it maybe solves a couple of other issues as well, because it kind of lets you use someone else in the midfield, and Smiley can kind of run around and do his thing.
If they're worried about like his injuries and like his hammy and whatnot as well, they could potentially take, I like Macca, but they could take him out from being the sub and go, Smiley, you're going to have a sub for a couple of weeks. Let's him build up that game time. He's not playing a full game. And then in the heat of the moment, they can put him where they think he'll be played best. So
as long as it's not the debut game. It's not the debut game.
Not the debut game. No. We get him in the midfield for debut straight away.
Yeah. He can go toss the coin. Just get him out there. He can toss the coin. Kelly, I think kick it to grass is plan A for this week against Geelong, because it is going to get ugly. But what changes would you make this week before we wrap up? Obviously, we're going to have we'll say 2 legitimate forced with Lafau and Lynch. Bolter, a few people are flagging that he might have time to get back potentially. If it's cutting it close, they won't do it. But
like I said, sub him out at 3/4 time and we'll be right.
And just send him down the highway.
Yeah, it's tough because if Lynch and Lafau weren't out, I probably would have called for Steely Green to go out this week. It's just I think he's not doing enough to stay in the side. I don't think he's playing bad by any means, but we need some bigger numbers, because when I'm looking at the stats here at the moment, you've got like 29, 28, 25, 24, and then it just jumps down to like 14. Like there's no kind of middle gap. So we need some guys to try and get some numbers, but it's a bit of a doozy with the 2 forwards going out. So I'd probably say, like I mentioned, Tom Sims in. We need a big body up there, even just to take, if he doesn't touch the ball, I don't care, just to be there and be a presence. Just compete. And the other one, I think Alga stays in there. I think he's been really good the last two games. But yeah, I don't know. The main one for me is I think Sims has to come in, or at least as much as I don't like him, you could put Samson Ryan up at full forward. Like, we just need someone.
Cooked.
That's right. He buggered his foot. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he and Forster are both no chance because of their foot injury. Right. Campbell Gray's still out.
About it.
We could see a resurgence of Cozzy. I'm still on Tyler Young. If I'm putting someone in, Tyler Young, chuck him up forward and just roll the dice. Oh, you go.
Oh, no, you go. Oh, I was going to say one thing before I forget. I wanted to touch on earlier, which I thought was absolutely insane. Without looking, who do you think for us spent like the most time on ground? Because it blew me away when I saw it, and he had quite a few touches too.
Trainer would have been up there. I didn't see him come off, but I don't reckon he would have been first. Wasn't Banks, was it?
No, Ben Miller, 98% game time.
And didn't he roll his ankle at one point early in the game?
He played 98% game time. That's unreal. Jesus. And he had 11 touches, but I thought he was very solid. I think he's a very good defender. to be honest.
He was good for 2.5 quarters to 3 quarters.
Yeah.
That last quarter, the damn wall's just broken. Phil Thorpe was just an animal. He probably got his colours lowered in that last quarter, but I think there was a lot of circumstances that probably contributed to that. Besides that, he played all right, but
yeah, I think he's just been solid.
Miller.
One little thing, I don't know if you saw it, there was an article that I thought was interesting that I've read about the Tigers with all their soft tissue injuries that they faced last year, because obviously that was a write-off of a season, that one. And it was saying, I've wrote it down here, it said that this year they've introduced an upgraded GPS tracking system with player load monitoring and cognitive training tools. So when a player they think has run too much, they basically get them off the ground, which I think that's good to help try and manage the soft tissue stuff. So,
interesting. All right, well, thank you for jumping on, Black Crow. Appreciate your thoughts and views as always, and we'll reconvene next week and see what comes of the Geelong game.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on. Before I go, what do you reckon the margin will be?
I'll say, Jesus, I'll say 75. I'm now scared about this game with who's not playing. What about you?
I think. Look, I'm going to go the opposite end of the spectrum. It's probably going to bite me in the ass big time. But we literally have nothing to lose next week, so I think we're just going to give it a crack. I still think we're going to get belted, but I'll probably go around the 50-60 mark. I think they've had 2 big spankings in a row. I think that they kind of figured out that they need to pull it out a little bit. So hopefully they can just apply some effort and they won't bring home a win, but hopefully they can just bring home some effort and the boys can get through unscathed.
Yeah, exactly right. So thank you again, mate. Appreciate it. And I'll speak to you soon, no doubt.
No worries, Michaels. Cheers, mate. Have a good night.
Speak soon. All right, I'm going to be back in about a minute. I'm going to get busting to go to the toilet, and I think Aaron's jumping on. Then I'm going to talk about some of the players from the Coates game today, the National Champs game with Louis Callaway and Josh Lindsay and whatnot. I'll be back in a sec. Michael's been benched. I was benched, yes. Apologies. Potty break, exactly right. Drank far too much water very, very quickly. But no, thank you for hanging around. All right, so I was going to just talk about quickly, obviously the National Champs games on today as well. South Australia was up against the Vic Country side, so there's a little bit of interest in that game from our perspective. First of all, South Australia won by 34 points, and they actually took out the title for the first time since 2018. No one got near them this carnival. It was actually a pretty dominant display from South Australia, so well done to them. In terms of some players who are of possible interest for us, Josh Lindsay led the way with disposals for everyone. 28 touches, 2 tackles, 1 clearance, 1 mark. He's one that's definitely on my radar as someone that we could pick up with one of our first 2 picks. Plays predominantly off halfback. I think could develop into a midfielder long term, but uses the ball off halfback reasonably well, and he could partner up well with Sam Banks potentially. I know that typically you don't really associate a high end pick like that with a halfback, but maybe we can be a bit more picky and selective with what we do in this space. William Dersma had 24 disposals, was the second highest. I think he spent a bit of time in defence from the bits and pieces I saw, which he has done at Coates League as well, and then gone forward at times to score goals. So he's another one whose name will be on the magnet. Dyson Sharp, 21 disposals, 1 goal. I think he got voted the MVP too. So look, he's going to be, surely he goes in the top 3 or 4 picks. I mean, it's going to be fascinating if Sharp is still at one of our picks, whether we go with him or not. I just, as good as Sharp is, I just feel like we have a few of his type already. But quality is quality at the end of the day. And if he's there, you take him. I think if we're talking about who's put their name up in lights from this championships, he's been the one who's really elevated himself, I think, in these games and put his hand up as a genuine option. Louis Callaway, he had 18 disposals, 6 marks, 6 tackles. From what I saw, he did pretty well again. I think he was in the either high 70s, low 80s, I think, for disposal efficiency. And look, I know there's been a bit written about him recently with where he might go in the draft. Some people saying it might be really, really late. Could be end of second round or third round. I don't know. But he's a really interesting prospect because he doesn't have that one really super elite trait that a lot of the other draftees have. But what he does do, he does a lot of things really, really well at a really consistent and good level. And what I keep reminding myself is not all draftees that you look at or that you pick up, they're not all going to be A++ players. You do need your Bs, your B+, your really, really good solid foot soldiers who do their jobs really well. And I look at how well Callaway feeds the ball to Sharp, for example, to get him using the ball on the outside. And I think he'll be a handy pickup. I mean, I don't know what type of impact he'll have at AFL level, but I still think he's someone that we should definitely pick up points and picks permitting. On other fronts, so there was also some Coates Leagues played today as well. Tanner Armstrong, who's an NGA prospect for next year, I think he had about 25 or 26 disposals today for Murray Bushrangers as a underage player, which is a really, really good. That's good numbers. Honestly, that's good numbers to get. As a bottom major, that's actually quite impressive. And I don't think they're traveling all that well as a team. So to still get prolific numbers like that's really good. And I saw before that Archie Daffy kicked 2 goals and was named in the best for Geelong Falcons as an underager as well. So he's 2026 father-son prospect. So good to see we've got some more prospects doing some good things for next year as well. Jack Lee's played as well on the weekend, but I think he only had about 7 or 8 disposals, so I'm not sure what the story was there. He's usually averaging quite a bit more than that. But, yeah, it seems like next year we've got some options, and we're going to need some picks and some points to execute all of this. I won't mention the Cody Walker stuff because we've already been there and discussed all of that. But even if we take Walker out of the picture for a second, there's still going to be three or so players that we're going to have to try and find a way to bring in. Widescreen reckons that Sharp's by far the best in the way player. I'm with you, Widescreen. I'm not totally sure if he suits us either. What does everyone else think? For those who have watched some of the Champs games, as good as Dyson Sharp is, I don't want to take away from that. But do you think he actually fits what we need? I think I would have a different view on this if we didn't have the 8 picks last year and could spread it as well as we did. I reckon you'd be like, yep, get a Sharp in a heartbeat. But I just feel like we can be a bit more selective with what we take now because of the haul we had last year, if that makes sense. But keen to hear what everyone thinks on that front. Widescreen Callaway for me has been the most impressive. I think he might have a higher ceiling than we first thought. Hopefully, like I said, I'd love to see us take him. It will be interesting to see where he gets bid on. He's been putting up some pretty good numbers for most of the carnival, to be honest. So, yeah, hopefully we can land him down the track. Tell you, Sharp feels too one-dimensional. It definitely feels like he's added some more strings to his bow in the carnival, like playing deeper forward. He was playing almost as a full forward at various stages today. I saw him lead out and take a few marks. he's a good player. Like, he's definitely put his hand up to be in the top 2 or 3. So, older Aussie Kellaway's a nice ceiling. Will never be a star, but a nice role player. Would Sharp bring in a bit of pace that we need? I don't think he has the pace that we want or need. Like, I don't see him being I don't see him being faster than a Lawler or anything like that, for example. If you're going for pace in the midfield, Grill's probably the one that you would target, although I'm not too sure how he's gone the last couple of games. Fred Rodriguez from WA would be another one you would target for genuine pace in the midfield. And Josh Lindsay, I don't know whether he would transition to the midfield at any point, but yeah, he could be another one that you take a look at for that. Sharp's improvement is in his weak areas, though, throughout the season, very impressive. Well, yeah, I mean, West Coast are obviously in prime position. Do they need a Duff Tyler? I don't know. Duff Tyler seems to be the other one that's probably up there in contention to go number 1. But it feels like that Sharp's now, re-elevated himself to that status, which is fair enough. He's done very, very nicely. Tally's keen on Josh Lindsay as well. Sharp, similar to Rao, doesn't have the burst, which, a lot of the players can obviously get away with. But I think, we're kind of at a point that we're desperately needing speed. The one player I was probably a little bit disappointed with his game today was Hibbins Hargreave. He was one that I was talking about quite a lot as someone that I would have for one of our first few picks as well. But he only had the 7 disposals today, kicked 1 goal, had 1 tackle. I mean, that's just not good enough areas to warrant the pick I was prepared to use on him. But like a game prior to this, he kicked 4 goals and had high teens in terms of possessions. So he seems to be a bit up and down. So I'm not sure if there was anything else happening with him today at all, but it just seemed like a bit of a down game, which was a bit annoying. What does everyone think of Will Dersma? Don't worry about the surname, but as a utility player who can play kind of either end, I think his kicking efficiency was down a little bit today, which might impact, I suppose, some people's views on whether we should target him or not. But keen to hear everyone's thoughts on Dersma as well. Do I think we need Duff Tyler? I don't know. Like, I've not seen anything in the champs, old Air Aussie, that makes me like, holy shit, we've got to take this kid. Because the reality is, even if we took him this year, he's not going to be ready to main ruck for another 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years, just with how ruckmen develop and grow and fill out and whatnot. We've got Sims as well, but Sims is probably, look, I thought he could be a ruck forward. It's probably looking more and more like he would be more of a forward ruck, unless he's grown a little bit since the official measurements of the draft. But with the ruck, my take on our ruck situation is whenever Nank is winding down and going to call it quits, I think that year we can just go to trade or free agency and handpick a backup ruckman from almost any club and bring them across to be our first ruck, like we did with Nank when we got him to begin with. So I don't know whether I'd be prepared to spend a pick that high on Duff Tyler, unless you're looking at a Nick Nat-Nui type where he's genuinely game-changing, then you do it. And I know he's had some good games at Coates level, some really dominant displays, but I just don't know if it's translated to the higher up in the champs yet. And that's kind of the benchmark for me. If they do well in the champs against the best of the best, then it's like, okay, there's something there, but I just don't know if I've seen it. What does everyone else think, though? Would everyone else take Duff Tyler? A few people saying we should trade back in the draft, maybe with Essendon. It's a good call, Grumpy. It's a good call. If there's a possibility to split picks, you wouldn't trade both, obviously, but if you can trade pick 2 to get pick, or it might have to be pick 2 and something else to get pick 8 and something else, whatever it might be. But yeah, if you can somehow get an extra pick in the first round, I know it's not a deep draft, but if we're not trading the picks out for a Reed or a Butters or whatever it might be, then yeah, if you can somehow walk away with a Josh Lindsay, a Dersma, a Rodriguez, a Sharp, who knows, then it could be worth adding a few more younger players into the mix for next year and beyond. Dabs a no to Dersma. Ballistic says William would be nice on a wing or half back. The draft doesn't look the greatest. Also, you reckon we trade? Yeah, inconsistent. I kind of got that vibe today with his kicking was a little bit inconsistent. So it probably wouldn't help. I don't know. It wouldn't help us now, would it? It's a really interesting one. Ballistic used to reckon we need to take a draft this draft, maybe even Lewis Emmett later on. Do we though? What's everyone's thoughts? Are we just better off trading for a ruck though, rather than do you think we're better off loading up on better ball users and ball winners and just trading in for rucks when we need them down the track? Because with the way footy's played these days, you don't necessarily need an A++ elite ruckman. If we look at the ruck stocks today, Max Gawn and Tristan Xerri are probably the two best ruckmen in the competition right now. And both of those teams who have got reasonably okay midfields are in the bottom 6 teams. So you don't always need the very, very best ruckman. So on that basis, I'm always inclined to think, well, do we just trade in for a Ned Moyle, who's doing really good in the VFL for Gold Coast, come play number 1 ruck, and just have a good enough midfield and ball winners to then do their thing and extract the ball and get things moving that way. I just think there's... Yeah, and we probably don't need to do it this year either. It's probably more a next year thing that we would have to look at or the year after. There might be some free agents that pop up as well. I'm not sure what the free agency status is for some rucks in the coming years, but that would be another one I would consider too, free agency. How late do we think Emmett's going to last though? Because there might be other teams out there that do need an Emmett or a Duff Tytler as an absolute need. But it will be interesting to see how teams handle the draft. Yeah, that's good points, Gadush. With the ruckman we've had come in via trade, Stafford, Marich, Graham, Grigg. Grigg, well played. Do you think we skip the draft and back the players that we have? I mean, it's either... What does everyone prefer? Would everyone prefer to trade the picks to get an experienced player in? And, well, it might not even be experienced. It might be someone younger, like a Reed type. I mean, if you broke it down into 2 possible scenarios... If you were to trade both picks and you were getting in Zach Butters, would you say yes or no? I'd probably say yes to Zach Butters. If you're trading both picks from this year for Harley Reid, would you say yes or no? I reckon I change my mind every day on that. I think I would almost say no to 2 picks this year for Harley Reid. I would be okay if we did 1 this year, 1 next year, or 1 2027. I'd still like to keep at least 1 pick for this year. I still think there's some value to be had at the range that we're going to have picks in to at least add 1 more younger player from this draft and then try and use a future pick. But look, if it was Butters, I would probably happily trade both, to be honest, because he's a very, very good player and a proven good player too. I just don't know whether I would do it for Reed at this stage. Grumpy, that's a good point. Hayes Brown, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you saw his VFL game on the weekend. And granted, the Bull Ants ruckman, I think, was a bit undersized and just not very good without being disrespectful. But Hayes Brown just took the piss. He was having an absolute field day, which we're doing. Like he was our 2nd highest disposal getter. That's how well he was going. I think he had 10 or 11 clearances. You'd love to see him do it more often. And again, I'd be more than happy to play him at some point in the last few games of the year just to give him a taste if his form's still tracking okay. Because I think he's heading in the right areas. Like, we've got to remember, he's still really young as well. And ruckmen do take longer to develop and grow, as we all know. So, yeah, what he looks like in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, who knows? And he was even taking some marks around the ground, kicked a goal. So he was having a good old day, old Hayes Brown, the old snack pack. I go to target for this year. I mean... If it was a wish list, it'd be Butters. Or do you throw a De Koning in the mix? I mean, I guess the caveat, I'm not wanting to pay St Kilda money for Tom De Koning. I think what they're offering is ridiculous, but I get why they're doing it. Could we benefit from a Tom De Koning? I think we could, because he can actually play forward as well. I don't at all think this is going to happen. I'm just sort of playing a hypothetical out. What does a world look like with a Tom De Koning and Toby Nankervis pairing as ruck and forward? Like, I think that would work well for us. I think that solves a couple of issues for us and maybe prolongs Nank's career. De Koning can be flexible at both ends, but the price for De Koning is obviously quite extraordinary. And very likely wouldn't happen anyway. But it's nice to sometimes dream about what that might look like for us. And if it's, I think we'd be silly if we weren't asking the question still. Like, you would still hope that we're got our finger on the pulse if it's going to fall through at St Kilda, but it just can't be at that price that whatever's being flagged, it's just obscene. So there's going to be a big decision for Tom De Koning to make in a few months' time, which will be very, very interesting. Rob says no to trading next year's picks. Well, that's right. We do have quite a few father sons in NGA, so we do need a shitload of points. If anything, we might have to somehow trade in picks for that year. I guess if we were to trade futures, we'd be trading like the 2027 picks, but then they probably don't hold the same value because of the potential of Tasmania, the potential of us being better performed by then. We could also still be at the same level. At some point, you've got to bet on yourself, I guess. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways it can be done. Look, he may not, Tom. He may not. If he does decide to leave West Coast, I still think we're in the strongest position. If he leaves this year, if he doesn't leave this year, we're pretty much Gonski, and I would say Geelong or Hawthorn. But if he leaves this year, I think it would be a close race between us and Essendon. Essendon throwing stupid money, Richmond throwing better picks. So if I'm West Coast and we have the inkling he's going to want to leave, I'm pushing him out this year because the currency you'll receive is far greater than next year. But yeah, that's what I would do. Does Butters solve the mid? Yeah, it does. It does. Well, it solves it, but then it still raises question marks on where does Taranto, Hopper, and Prestia, how do they all fit in? But obviously one of them would have to get removed in some capacity for Butters to play. But yeah, Butters adds speed, adds X factor to the midfield. I just don't think he would pick us to play for. I think he's probably a couple of years too old. He'll want to go to a more established side who are going to be having a tilt rather than rebuild. Is just my current vibe on Butters, and that's fair enough. If he was to say, I want Richmond, or I'm open to Richmond, 100% you'd try and make the play. Every day of the week. Well, apparently Geelong are getting Reid. They're getting, who else was there? Matt Rowell, even though he just signed. There was a few others that were all heavily linked to them. Kid reckons we should draft CDT and Dersma. Gee, I tell you what, that would divide a lot of people if we did that. That would cause some serious discussions. I'm just not sure if we need Duff Tyler. Dersma, I'm kind of open to. His foot skills have me with a little bit of question marks. But yeah, it would be. There's options. There's options, and the good thing is that our picks are high enough that they won't be too compromised. So we still should be able to get access to some good players. Sell De Koning the vision for a haircut in pay. Look, again, similar to Butters, I think it would be a really tough sell to get De Koning over the line if he was ever at all interested. I don't think he would ever be, but if nothing else, I think we should keep our finger on the pulse to try and drive his price up for someone else to make life uncomfortable for him. Do I think Nank should keep captaincy, or should it be given to someone like Vlosten or Brody? I feel like that Vlosten was on record as saying he's never wanted captaincy. As much as I think as supporters, we all think he would have been really well fit to the role, I don't think he ever wanted it. Brody, I could see having it. I do truly think, though, that both of them are probably too old. I almost feel like we're at a point now where Nank holds it until he retires, whether that's in 2 years or whatever it might be. Taranto was probably the other obvious one that we all thought for this year that didn't happen. He could still be on the cards depending on what Nank's doing. And then it's the one after that, though, that I don't really know about. Obviously, there's Lawler might come on in some leadership qualities. Smiley might train. I'm kind of banking on that one of the 8 we just drafted will possess leadership qualities to be anointed a captain in 6 years, 7 years, whatever that might be. Do we go down the Cochrane path and go an ultra young handover? We're probably not in the position to do that, but it's maybe something to consider and talk about. But yeah, it's a lot to play out there, I think. I would also much rather this nuclear day pinch Walker off Carlton. There would be a lot of reasons why that would be amusing. And And like I've said, it's not totally out of the question yet. And I know Carlton supporters don't want to believe that. They want to laugh that out of town, but it is as categorically unwavering as you can get that is not a done deal yet as it can possibly be. And he still might very well sign for the Blues. The father-son stuff's probably going to be too strong, and I respect that, but it's not a closed door just yet. And we would be negligent for not trying to get him either. Scootish, we should keep our first pick in our pick 2 trade to get more picks to gain Callaway. I'm not sure how many other picks we'll need for Callaway because it's father-son, we get a discount as well. And I don't know the full ins and outs, but once it gets to a certain point in the draft order, if they're not taken, I think you can just add them to your list as a rookie or something like that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I just remember reading that somewhere recently. And I guess it's a bit of cat and mouse with other clubs and how and where they bid on Callaway and what they try and force us to do. So it's a little bit to play out there, I think. Probably worth looking at a mature free agent forward. Maybe. Who's available? I truly don't know, but does anyone know who's available free agency-wise as a forward? It's something we may have to consider, possibly. Wouldn't be the worst thing to do. Michael, pick up Lindsay and Duff Tytler or Grill. Lindsay, I think, is a good option. I think he's got a good role. He can play off halfback for us. And Grill, weirdly, he was played at halfback in some of these early champ games. I want to see him in the midfield again. So we'll have to see if that plays out as it should too. Yeah, Harry Scott. Actually, I mean, a lot of our VFL guys, Crunchy, do some nice things, don't they? Al Noor's another one who might get picked up. I don't think he'll get picked up by us. I think we've got too much depth in that area, but definitely deserves to be on an AFL list, I think, Al Noor. But yeah, Harry Scott's another one. And I think the club was liking Sam Toner too, who's just come back recently as well. Lindsay's great. Hope they all don't get farms. Good call, Lettuce. I like it. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think Taranto may be a makeshift captain if Nank wants to hand it over at some point before he finishes up or whatever that might look like. And then it's kind of onto the next crop to see if any of them want it. Reckon we'll give Lawler captaincy, keep him at the club long term like I did with Koch. It's a good carrot, isn't it? I mean, it didn't work with Lynch. They did it for Gold Coast. He was captain while we snagged him while he was captain of their club, but it definitely probably helps when you're having conversations for contracts and extensions and things like that. But you don't want to overload the youngsters as well. I mean, it was a pretty ballsy call when we made Cochin captain and ultimately worked out okay for us. Can you get the same thing to happen twice though? I don't know. Or do you just want Lawler to carry on with his football and become a good player first? I don't know. I reckon Lynch will get... I haven't rewatched it, so I'm basing what I'm about to say off just what I saw on the game replay. And it looked like maybe 4 to 5, but I don't think it's so hard. I don't think he connected really well with it at all. And on first glance, I kind of felt like he actually opened his hand up a bit before it made contact, but I might be completely wrong because it happened so quickly and the camera shot wasn't the best. So I stand to be corrected on that front, but I think the biggest problem that Lynch has got is the potential to cause injury clause, which seems to be a Richmond exclusive clause that happens to us. So I think that alone will see it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll go straight to the tribunal, and so that's a minimum 3 or 0. So it's not going to be 0. So I'm guessing somewhere between 3 and 5. But look, whilst definitely don't condone what he did, it was just dumb. He has to be better as a leader. But there's also a part of me that thinks that if they had just paid the free kicks correctly when they should have, it doesn't get to that stage. But yeah, it leaves us fairly short in the forward line, which is not helpful at all. Get Tyrone Vickery back. What did Jack Ross say in SCN? What was that today, was it? I haven't heard any of that stuff. Well, CB did say that instead of Harley Reid, should we turn our attention to Oscar Allen? I think he was being fairly serious, but he goes down with whatever he's heard at the moment, and I don't know if we'll be any better off. But I think that's got Brisbane all over it, though, doesn't it? I don't think we're really any chance in that area at all for Oscar. Give Taj the captaincy straight in. Thoughts on drafting Lockie? I don't know much about Lockie. I'll have to have a look. Who does he play for? I'll have to check that out. I'll have to check that one out. Captain of the Gold Coast. Yeah, true. Possibly Lynch. But yeah, interesting times for the Tigers ahead. So I think that'll be a wrap for tonight. Thank you so much for everybody who jumped on to give their thoughts on FanCam. Thanks to everybody who stayed in chat as well. Always good to talk footy and do some Q&A. It's always nice to chat and to vent and to get all your thoughts and feelings out there. And we'll be back tomorrow night for the Monday night show, 8:30 p.m. I'm not sure who's on yet, but we'll be on. I might even put out something on the socials tomorrow. We can leave one of those speak pipe voice messages. It's just a new feature that I found. So if you don't feel comfortable coming onto the fan cam, for example, and being on camera, which is completely fine, I can respect that. But we do now have a new feature where you can leave a voicemail message, which we can play on a show or on a recorded video that I do answering questions. So if you do ever want to put your opinion or your voice across, keep an eye out for when I put a call to arms about leaving a voicemail message, and feel free to send through your thoughts and feelings on whatever the topic is, and we can play them throughout the show. So it's really cool to get everyone involved, and just another way to get, another way you can all get your voices heard, which I think is always important. But yeah, so we're back on Monday night. What else is happening next week? We've got Behind Frenemy Lines will be happening on Thursday, and I'm sure there'll be other videos dropping throughout the week that we usually schedule. So have a wonderful night, everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks again for tuning in. Unfortunate result today, but I'm sure we'll have an interesting week of selection next week. Think about who you're going to select for this week, and make sure you let us know tomorrow night in chat, and we'll see you all then. Go Tigers.